Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Remko Rinkema, and today on Run It Back, I am joined by one of the guests from the first couple of shows that I did way back in March of 2020. It is one of my favorite guys to have on the show, Mr. Matt Berkey. Matt, thanks so much for joining us once again. How are things with you?
Things are good, man. You know, just on total lockdown, per usual.
Total lockdown, but you guys seem to be making the most of it. I want to start this off by complimenting you guys on Poker Out Loud, because that is a show you guys are doing on the Solve for Why channel. I claim to know a little bit about poker, and then you listen to guys like Landon Tice explain it to you out loud as they're playing, and you're like, yeah, I'm pretty clueless. So give us a quick rundown on what you guys have been working on these last couple of weeks.
I was being a little tongue-in-cheek with the complete lockdown, but we just filmed 2 seasons of Poker Out Loud. One for the YouTubes, which was the vlogger edition, including Landon Tice, and then one for our subscription site, which episode 1 comes out tomorrow. That's going to be a little bit tougher of a lineup. It's me, Lin G, Jeremiah Williams, Landon Tice, and Chris Konvalinka.
Wow. Yeah, you guys are putting out some awesome stuff. Go check out the Solve for Why team on YouTube, on their website, and also, of course, on Berkey's Twitter page. Today on Run It Back, for the people who are familiar with the show, you know what's about to happen. But if you are new, let me just introduce this for you right now. We watch some throwback footage. We go back into the archives of PokerGO and pick something good to run back, analyze, break down, have some fun with, and take your questions in the chat. We are live on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Facebook. So if you have any questions for Matt, whether it's strategy related or otherwise, maybe it's about how to best make a piece of chicken, which Matt knows a lot about, I've heard from various sources. You have to ask me in the chat. Also, along the lines of that same conversation, that back and forth that I love to have, please let us know where you are watching from, because I would love to know if we are still the most international crowd in all of poker. Matt, Pocket Kings here right off the bat here against Justin Young, who flops an ace with ace-8. As this hand rolls, and also to let you know, if you ever want to interrupt me or chime in with some thoughts as we are going through this broadcast of the Super High Roller Cash game, please do not hesitate. My first question, however, though, going into this lineup, how well do you know your opponents at this table?
Very well, actually. I played a lot with Oscar and Bob Bright, most specifically. They were regulars in the JRB Ivy's room game. And Oscar's a battler, man. There was the very first night that I played with him, I thought he was a massive whale just because he played so many hands. And there was a point where we were on probably about the tail end of a 24-hour session. And between the hours of like 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., we were playing 5-handed. There wasn't a single pot between the two of us that wasn't 5-bet pre. It was one of the most absurd things. We were both like a million deep playing 200, 400, just like
wow,
absolutely throwing chips at one another.
That's absolutely insane. That's crazy. I saw Oscar on this stream. He was very entertaining to watch, and that sort of goes in line with what you were just saying. How do you play against someone who is willing to battle that much? Because I can only imagine that it's sort of tempting to let loose a little bit, because you might expect this guy to sort of give it away eventually.
I mean, you're going to see a lot of back and forth between us. He plays some wild hands. I think there's a point where he 4-bets deuces versus me, and I have ace king, fortunately. But yeah, I mean, like when people are that loose, you kind of just have to try to have it a little bit more.
Yeah, that seems like the right approach. When we were talking about what footage to pick, you joked and referred to the fact that you weren't running too hot on some of these PokerGO live streams. Is it true that you are yet to book a win, or is there a win in there somewhere?
No. It was an ongoing joke that I had never won on stream, but that wasn't exactly true. I just lost more than I won. I do find a way to book a small win on this one, I think, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, this lineup also includes poker legend Daniel Negreanu, Justin Young, of course. You guys also go way back. Bob Bright in the middle there. Can never underestimate him. He's always got some tricks up his sleeve. When you play on a stream like this, or in this kind of format, do you feel a little bit of extra, I wouldn't call it pressure, but extra, I don't know, motivation to give some more action? Or is it always what we see is what we get as far as your style?
I think it's mostly what you see is what you get. I don't really need to try all that hard to give a little bit more action, I guess. I do think that there is some element of no.
Oh, we got a slight little bump in the connection there. I'm sure that'll.
Yeah, the idea of like playing wider ranges, just because you're playing against businessmen or whatever, doesn't really go well.
Yeah, that's a good point here. We got Young with the aces, Oscar with the 3-bet with the king 10 suited. This is sort of the way this whole night went, with lots of 3-bets and lots of big pots. For the people in the chat, please do keep those questions coming. I see lots of people coming in right now. I am joined by Matt Berkey. We're going to go 2 hours deep on this super high roller cash game. Lots of breakdowns of lots of hands, lots of interesting spots, lots of big pots as well. So please keep those questions coming. It is indeed, as Jess refers to in the chat, the backwards hat club. The last time Berkey and I did a show, I wore a baseball jersey in honor of him as the baseball player. Today, this was not planned. PokerGO has new hats out. This is actually a Poker After Dark hat, which is really cool. We have Poker After Dark hats, high-stakes poker hats. Go to PokerGoShop.com to check those out. Use the promo code REMKO, R-E-M-K-O, to take $10 off anything you buy in the PokerGo shop. I do not have a Solve for Why hat just yet, but I'm pretty sure.
I got you, man.
There we go.
Got you.
That's
let me know.
That's all I need to know. I'll wear that on the stream the next time. All right, so Justin Young, he's to your immediate left. Given the history you have with him, do you get extra creative, or do you do the reverse and sort of slow it down versus him because he might know your game better than anyone?
Justin and I actually haven't played very much cash together. We're very good friends, but our actual time together at the table is pretty limited. I think that for both of us, we probably just have a perception of one another that is maybe accurate, maybe not. So I think that largely we just kind of play into that nuance a little bit, where it's like he thinks I'm wild and I think he's wild, and we just try to make the best hand and get to the river.
That's awesome. What's your earliest poker memory with Justin Young? Do you guys have a funny story of playing back in the day, or perhaps going to some of the same events?
I don't know. Again, we like really didn't play a ton together. We just have mutual friends where we've hung out a lot. But there was a trip where we both went to Florida, and he ended up winning the WPT there. And he either won or he got like, I don't know, he final tabled. He definitely went super deep, but he went like ballistic with King 5 in a spot where like it was against some young kid or whatever, and he just got absolutely shredded at the table by this kid. Like, Justin obviously ended up winning the hand or whatever the case may be, and this kid was just absolutely destroying him over it. And I remember him telling me, and I'm just like, yeah, man, like, we're a different cut. You sometimes just got to get in there with the King 5 when you know it's right.
I mean, everybody loves that kind of poker. I mean, Daniel Negreanu versus Phil Hellmuth is bound to happen on PokerGo March 16th, high stakes duel, 8 p.m. Eastern time. That is the quintessential. The one guy thinks, oh, he either has it or he doesn't, and the other guy is now getting into the GTO machines and learning all that stuff. But yeah, there's nothing better than having the confidence that someone just doesn't have it, or they're not going to call. It's way more fun than making a proper mathematical assessment. Matt, where do you stand on all this? Because I'm curious, as someone who's known to play a bit of a different style than what is sort of automatically assumed as good poker. How do you see this GTO evolution, especially with you and your coaching site, and then at the same time, sticking to your roots, which is being very creative and aggressive?
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is I understand and am probably a lot more theoretically sound than I may appear. So maybe even looping all the way back to your original question of like, do you play differently because you're in a certain lineup or because you're on TV or whatever the case may be? Maybe unconsciously I do to some level, right? Like, I'm not that interested in choosing the perfect bet size against Bob Bright or players of that sort, because I don't want them to be turned off by my style of play, right? Like, if the EV difference between betting 80% pot and 1.5x pot is negligible, or maybe not even negligible, but like not so much that I don't mind giving a little bit up, but Bob is going to feel a lot more comfortable facing 80% from me consistently than he would facing pot and a half, because pot and a half looks intimidating. I'll just lean that way, right? So you definitely see a lot of stuff that looks a little out of line. Also, coming from the live realm, you're usually like infinite deep. So here, I think we're playing. What are we playing? 2-4 or 3-6?
I believe it's 2-4.
Okay, yeah. So I'm opening 4x in a 2-4 game, or just slightly less than. But we're all sitting, 250 plus big blinds effective, and I'm not saying that you should be opening larger in a deep stack cash game. But what I'm saying is there's a lot of value to opening larger when players don't adjust their ranges. And with guys like Bob, guys like Oscar, guys like even Justin to a large degree, and maybe Daniel at this time, since this was 2 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, it's long enough ago that like the strategy changes were still a little bit behind, and you just earn a lot by playing bigger pots with pretty decent hands. And you also earn a lot by V-pipping, right? Like the only way in a live realm you can control your volume is by playing more hands profitably than the next guy. And raise calling a 3-bet with 4-3 suited certainly isn't status quo, but at the same token, it's something against a guy like Oscar where position just matters a lot, right? And having 4 high is a pretty trash spot, but and actually I'm probably just further highlighting my mistake here, because I thought I was the button, but it looks like I'm actually out of position.
Oh.
So like, I was obviously making mistakes back then that I wouldn't necessarily make now. But at the same token, like most of my strategy was just born out of V-pipping, right? So it's just the ability to be there by the river more often than everybody else. And in theory, that's not really what you necessarily want. But in practice, when you're only going to get dealt a couple hundred hands versus players that you think you have an advantage against, it's really critical to be mixing it up. Looking back now, I would raise fold that 4-3. And most people wouldn't even raise it to begin with. But I think that there is, again, these ranges are you'll just see some shit, man. That's the best way I can put it, right? It's like you're just going to see some things that are just so fundamentally awful that you could give up a lot of strategic EV on an early street in order to put yourself in a profitable position down the line.
Did I just hear you make an argument for saying balancing in live poker is stupid?
Yeah, kind of. I don't want to be that guy, man. Here's the thing, like I'm not an advocate against theory. I think theory is very critical, but I am an advocate of using it to your best advantage, right? So being theoretically sound in an environment that demands you to do so is very important. If you're in a tough lineup, you better be very sound, right? Like you should be playing as close to quote unquote by the book as you possibly can. But when you're in a scenario where you just carry a post-flop edge throughout most hands because your opponents play a very non-strategic sound game, then it becomes really critical to put yourself in opportune spots. And a lot of times that just means not necessarily balancing because your opponents aren't thinking that way. You can bet big with a good hand, you can bet an amount that will get called with a good hand, and you can bet a larger amount than that with a bad hand in scenarios where people are price sensitive. And to dismiss that doesn't occur is to dismiss the human element of the game.
It's very fascinating having you on today, because I had Alex Foxen on last week, and he was giving similar thoughts on tournament poker, where he was also basically saying that, yes, the fundamentals are crucial. Yes, having good fundamental understanding is very important to being successful. But basically the same way you're saying it now is that it is not the end all be all, because situation by situation, based on other relevant information, as well as having a deeper understanding of who your opponent really is, really comes into the mix. So for the people who watch Run It Back all the time, we've had some of the wizards on the show, and having Berkey and Alex Foxen on the show sort of gives you that perspective that it is not the end all be all. It's one of those things, do your math homework, but don't forget to also take the rest into account, which is really interesting to hear. Does it also mean, Matt, that you are still yourself studying a lot to make yourself better understand those fundamentals?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it never ends, right? Like if you want to play this game professionally, you better be up on trends and you better be equipped to take on the best. And I'm not going to claim that I'm the most theoretically sound person in this field, but I'm probably a lot more studied in theory than people understand, and it's a really well kept secret. Like I'm happy that the thought process is that I'm not, because it gets me in games like this, and that's a big aspect of win rate, right? Like my win rate in this game is just going to be significantly higher than maybe even 2x the stakes in a much tougher lineup. So poker is a weird beast, man. Like people want it to be this vacuum scenario of like what we study in the lab, but that's just very rarely the application. So like what I'm most interested in personally is developing a baseline that I think can compete against very talented players who are also incredibly studied, and then figuring out how to best mold that baseline into the environment that I'm in. So if I recognize that the hijack is supposed to open, say, 20%, but I'm in an environment where I think I can play 1.5 times that range profitably, then I'm going to do so, right? Like if I think I can play my button range profitably from the cutoff in the game that I'm in, then I'm going to do so. And I think that that's something that a lot of people who are very theoretical in nature are unwilling to do. They're unwilling to deviate from the precontrived strategy because it's all they know, right? They're used to only being in the tough environment. So shifting into exploits doesn't feel very natural. And they're not leaving infinite on the table. But again, in these short samples where you really have to lean into the volatility and variance of it all, it's very critical to kind of get after it.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense to me. Even as someone who has never and will never play at these stakes, it just makes sense. The sample size is highly underestimated, especially if you connect sample size with opportunity. You know, the short sample size of a big opportunity is very different than the big sample size of a mediocre opportunity.
Right.
Here you go, 3-betting against Oscar. As you guys already had a bunch of back and forth, it just keeps going. This time, however, you do have a hand. Sizing, though, in this spot, you betting 3.5K here on this flop. Is that also very player specific, or are those more theoretical approaches that you take there?
Yeah, that's just the correct bet size for this board. Ace 6-3 rainbow is a texture that's going to favor me as the 3-better. We're going to be pretty much range betting here for a small size. Now I would probably even go quarter, given that I believe I'm in position in this particular hand. So yeah, sorry, I got to lose the headphones. They died. I think that that's pretty natural. The turn gets a little weird here with the deuce of hearts because he has 5-4 and I probably don't have much. And this is a bad size that I chose. So I hedged a little bit and chose about half pot, which is kind of lazy here in this spot. I think we'd want to be going closer to like 3/4 or checking some of the time. Given that I have diamonds, I think that I block some of his backdoor floats like king, queen of diamonds, queen, jack of diamonds. So it's more likely that he has an ace X type hand. So betting here for value is pretty good, I think. I wouldn't be surprised to see him check raise here. I honestly don't remember what he does, but I think it's kind of a cool spot for him to check raise.
Yeah, so let's take this from his perspective. Obviously, he gets 3-bet. He calls with a good suited hand, and then on the flop, that call, is that something that you would advocate for, or how do you feel about that?
It's pretty loose, and what I'm realizing now is this is blind versus blind.
Oh, is it really?
So yeah, I'm pretty certain. I think I have the betting lead here, and I do think he chooses a raise here.
So Justin is not in the hand. He was not at the table, or
he is. Yeah, you're right. So I think it's a blind versus straddle.
Okay, gotcha.
So I actually think this was just a raise and a call, not a 3-bet pre.
I believe it was a 3-bet pre. I think, or sorry, it was a raise of the straddle. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think Oscar straddled and I opened, or he opened and I 3-bet from the small blind. In either event, I think his flop float is pretty ambitious. You're going to want to call with some backdoor hands. Queen 9's pretty weak, though. He's going to have better hands to choose from. Queen 10, Queen Jack. king high hands. Basically, the real problem with queen nine of hearts is that he only has the backdoor flush draw. He really can't make a backdoor straight. And that's problematic, where queen 10, queen jack are just infinitely better in that regard. Also, queen jack, queen 10 have better blockers against my stronger top pair type holdings. So yeah, I think that this is ambitious to say the least. I think he'd rather have like 8-9 of hearts than queen 9 of hearts. But nevertheless, here we are. His turn raise is kind of cool because he can have 5-4 and I really can't 3-betting out of the small blind. But at the same token, I don't know what the hell he's going to do now. I assume if he didn't make a queen, he was going to shove, which I probably just have to call off. I think I'm pretty close to the top of range. If he has 5-4, God bless him, especially because it's Oscar. But if I remember feeling a little disgusted that I missed value there somehow.
Yeah,
not knowing what he had, of course.
Right, of course, terrible river card for the situation at hand, because Oscar gets showdown value, and that forces him. I mean, there's no real sense in him betting there for value, right? Like, you're never going to have.
Well, so this is the thing that I guess I don't really quite understand about the hand. When I call, I only have a draw, which is really hard for me to have unless I have hearts also. But I guess the only hearts I could have is like exactly king 10 or jack 10. In which case now his queen wins. So literally against two combos, he now shows downs and wins. But otherwise, I just almost certainly have ace X. So I think that becomes the problem with the turn raise, is that when I don't fold, my range is so funneled to good hands that he's kind of left hanging out to dry to hit a heart.
Right.
Because he just won't be. If the river's a brick, he just really can't shove. I mean, I guess if it's a 4 or a 5, he can just like run a 0 equity bluff and hope that I hero fold ace king, ace queen, which I probably would have to, but it's a little suicidal.
Yeah, which is what we love. We love seeing suicidal poker. That might actually be a new cash game. The suicidal the suicidal poker cash game.
I could think of the lineup, I think.
Okay, give me some names. Give me some names.
Okay. I think Oscar should be included for sure. I think you could include JRB.
Yes.
Rick Solomon for sure. I would love to throw my hat in the ring, of course.
Of course.
I think that Jake Daniels is a new up and coming addition who is capable of a little suicide from now and then.
Yes. I mean, Lin G had the guts to just rip it in there with the queen 10. I don't know.
Guts is one way of putting it, Remko.
Hey, man.
That hand was tough.
Yes, that hand was insane. For those who've been living under a rock, the latest season of High Stakes Poker, exclusively available on PokerGo, has some truly remarkable hands in it. That hand, however, is also on our YouTube and our Facebook page. So if you want to just watch the one hand, Lin G goes mental against Tom Dwan and JRB. Well worth the watch, but also well worth the price of admission to watch it on PokerGo. By the way, promo code HSP to take $20 off the annual sub if you want to go and watch the entire archive. Here's a wheel for Oscar against the higher straight of Justin.
This is very unlucky for Justin. He chose to not slow play, but not 3-bet the turn. Basically, he led Oscar raised. He just called. And now the river's a 4, which is just going to absolutely cripple Justin's ability to double through in this spot.
And stacks are still deep with Justin having 100K behind, with 30K already in the middle.
If I recall, Oscar doesn't even bet, which is crazy, by the way.
Wow.
In a single race pot, it's going to be very hard for Justin to have a full house here.
Right. So in the way you're describing Oscar's play so far that we've seen compared to his style, were these adjustments that he made, or, is he more so aggressive when given opportunity versus wanting to get value when there is that opportunity on the river? Because it seems to me as though he's more of a pre-flop flop player than a turn and river player.
He is incredibly image aware. So I think he deserves a ton of credit for that. He knows that people will try to lay traps against him because he's so aggro. So what it forces him to do, obviously, is pass on some thin value spots and maybe pass on some thin value, or not value, pass on some thin bluffs Like that queen nine is probably still just a pure shove on the river. He blocks ace queen, which is my most likely call down. And he needs me to be folding some ace X in that instance for him to show profit. He just doesn't beat enough hands, right? But he just can't run that bluff because he feels like he gets called by ace king more often. And by proxy, that means that he just shouldn't like raise turn to see where he's at or to try to take it away, right? Like when facing a double barrel there, you're just probably against a hand.
I mean, I'm just here shocked that Oscar
That's a wild checked
his behind. Phil on Facebook says, in relation to you saying that Justin got unlucky, he says, but why? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is bigger than the wheel, and that is correct. However, the fact that Oscar checked behind his wheel cost Justin a ton of money, and as Berkey referred to, it's not just full houses that Justin is going to show up with there. That's actually probably a pretty small percentage of what he's going to have there. Justin may or may not have slammed 3 Jack and Cokes right after this hand just to wash away the sour taste of that. For the people in the chat, please keep those questions coming. I see you guys on Twitch. I see you guys involved, and I see everyone else on Facebook and YouTube as well. Please keep those coming. We appreciate it. By the way, Rise and Shine here is wondering, who's Berkey's pick for tomorrow, Victor Malinowski or Fedor Holtz?
What's the exact structure? I know that they're playing, but I guess I don't know how many hands, how many sessions, or anything along those lines.
Great question. I'm also not very involved. If someone in the chat can brief us on the exact specifics, we'll get back to that question. I do believe that it's a cash game. I just don't know how long they're going to play for.
In any event, I think that Victor is definitely the favorite, but I also think that he's been playing a ton lately, and all of those hands are available for purchase. Basically, I wouldn't be surprised if Fedor is very specifically studied towards his game, in which case, that very well could neutralize his edge quickly.
So are you suggesting maybe a bit of a Brian Hastings, Victor Blom type scenario?
Well, it's not really faux pas anymore, right? That's just very common.
Really?
Upswing released a course on how to beat Red Baron. And it was literally just they bought all of his hands and ran it through a database, did some solves, and kind of demonstrated what his strategy is. So yeah, I mean, that stuff is just happening at a really high frequency these days. And I'm sure Limitless is aware of it. Maybe he just doesn't care. I'm not sure, but Fedor is a smart guy. He's not leaving himself out to blow in the wind. He has very little heads-up experience. So if he's taking on this match, I imagine he feels he's deriving an edge from somewhere.
Chad is saying it's 5,000 hands. That's, of course, a pretty small sample, but still decent enough to do some damage.
Yeah, okay.
Very interesting to watch. By the way, this whole era, I mean, we're talking about the suicidal cash game lineup, but this whole era since COVID started with everybody just getting into grudge matches, Galfond getting out there against everyone, Negreanu versus Polk, and now we have Victor against Fedor. There's some more stuff cooking in the background that I've heard about, some more giant matches. What is it with all these ego battles? Yes, there's money on the line, but clearly there's a lot of ego-driven poker battling going on.
I think everybody's home and bored, man. I also think that heads up really lends itself to sponsorship kind of driving the machine a little bit. We saw GG is a pretty big force behind this match, and they were a bit of a force behind the Daniel Doug match as well. Although, there was already a lot of background and history between those two that kind of did the marketing churn for them. So yeah, I just think it's really appealing. It's very engaging to the audience. People love it. It gives us a chance to really, I don't want to say, see what people have to show, because the samples just don't really matter. But it is a way to display talent, I guess. Let's go that way.
Right. So if you had to make a top 3 list of players just for the fun of it, you would like to play 5,000 hands of heads up with, who's on your list? And they can't be on your payroll.
Can we do it live?
Yeah.
5,000 hands isn't that many. I think we could. That would be that'd be 2 weeks live. I could have fun doing that.
I would like to see that. You and Oscar?
I would love to play Oscar heads up. I think that would be an absolute battle. I would actually enjoy playing G-Man as long as it wasn't for crippling stakes. I have a lot of respect for his game. I enjoy his company a lot, so I wouldn't hate playing him heads up. But I also think that he's very good, so I wouldn't want to necessarily be playing nosebleeds versus him. I don't think I have like a massive edge or anything. I think that I would obviously enjoy playing Jared B heads up. Again, I just really enjoy his company, and I think he's good action. I actually played Matt Kirk heads up, Aussie Matt, and that was, I mean, him losing is one of the most pleasurable things on earth. He is just like one of the most entertaining losers that you'll come across, but him winning is insufferable. So, it's a double-edged sword. You're kind of going both ways in that regard.
Oh, that's hilarious. I'd love to see all those matches. Berber on Twitch is asking, where can I watch this without the two guys talking? Berber, that's a great question. No one likes to hear too much talking, but if you go to PokerGO.com right now, you can watch 2 nights of this super high roller cash game with Matt Berkey in the mix right now. If you go to our on-demand tab, this is all available. This is from back in 2019. We have thousands of hours of high-stakes action on PokerGO, including new episodes of Poker After Dark and High Stakes Poker airing every Monday night and every Wednesday night. And it's just been a total blast having those shows during this year in which, we did not have the big live events we've grown accustomed to playing and watching. And hopefully those can all return soon in 2021 because my tournament final table juices are flowing. I can't wait for some big moves and some big action with everything.
Are you guys covering the Gardens final table that's happening?
We are not covering that right now as we speak. No, whatever happens in the future, I'm not sure. But as of right now, we're not showing that.
It is coming back though, right? Like WPT's finally doing those delayed final tables.
Yes, they're finally catching up on the final tables that they were supposed to have happen in May last year. Of course, pandemic. So they are doing those now, but I don't think those are being streamed. I think they're being filmed, but I don't think they're being streamed.
Right, for TV.
Yeah. So whenever more information of that comes out, we'll be sure to let you guys all know. David Lopez, we just answered your question about who he would love to play heads up. There's someone with a YouTube name that I can't pronounce who says, views on the Hellmuth versus Polk hand on high stakes poker. Just to let everyone know, we arguably saw one of the best hands of high stakes poker history yesterday between Doug Polk and Phil Hellmuth. Doug Polk made an incredible laydown, and the hand is in the most recent episode. Also, I want to let you guys know we are putting that hand in full on YouTube tomorrow, so you're going to be able to watch the full hand, even if you're not a subscriber. We're throwing that pork chop at you guys to speak as Jason Somerville there for just a second. Berkey, did you watch the hand?
Yeah, really, really insane. I don't want to downplay it at all. Obviously, the fold is world class, but it's also one of those things where it's like not folding almost seems maddening. Hellmuth just only literally has the nuts in that spot 100% of the time. There's just zero question whatsoever as to whether or not he has bluffs there, and the answer is just simply no. Like his version of bluffing there would be Queen 10 of spades,
right,
for the nut with a redraw to the nuts. I mean, there is just absolutely no chance that man is putting in $100,000 with like an open ender.
I mean, I don't know. Phil Hellmuth is very entertaining to watch, but in a cash game format, I have to say that I've yet to come across a tighter player.
Yeah, 100% true. I think that I kind of spoke about this on our vlogcast a couple weeks ago, and I said that it's our fault that Phil Hellmuth is relevant. And by our, I mean like the collective community who is so critical of him, yet continually pays him off, right? The fact of the matter is, like, Doug did everybody a service by folding that hand because it allows people to understand that when those big bets come through by Phil Hellmuth, he just has them. But the truth of the matter is, in tournaments, what is ultimately happening is he just shoves for 10x pot there, and somebody has the second nuts and calls, and then he makes a deep run and wants to go brag on social media about how he's the absolute greatest, right? So it's our fault. It's literally collectively all of our faults. We can all put an end to Phil Hellmuth by just no longer allowing him to get away with this nonsense. And we'll be fine. That'll be it. He will stop winning things. He'll stop making money. His strategy will be as bad as we all think it is. But until the adjustments occur, his strategy is genius. He's risking nothing to make all of the money.
There you have it. The antidote versus Phil Hellmuth. Are you guys all listening and paying attention at home? Because I think you laid it out perfectly. I think that is the way to combat Phil Hellmuth. And I've watched many, many hours of him playing in cash games. And he plays cash games like a tournament. And it doesn't work that well against the guys he's playing with in the cash games. But in tournaments, as you all know, versus the idiots from Northern Europe, it works perfectly fine every time.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he has escalating blinds working in his favor, right? So at the end of the day, his strategy is very good in an environment where people are unwilling to adjust. And on top of that, it's also very good in the sense that he gets picked by the deck sometimes, right? So it's like it's a pick me strategy in some regards. It's one where he's just never going to give away any money with less than the best of it. And sometimes when he has the best of it consecutively, the deck just says, all right, Phil, today's your day. Your 80-20s are going to hold. Your flips are going to go your way. And the next thing you know, you're going to be at a final table. Oh, this is the deuces hand.
All right. Run us through this hand.
Okay, so Oscar straddles to 800. Bright doesn't see it and limps. These graphics are definitely wrong.
Oh.
Well, the graphics are wrong in the sense that Oscar 100% straddled.
Oh, okay.
Or I guess he could have min-raise opened. I didn't see it necessarily. Not that it really matters. But in any event, I make it 6,500, which is absurdly large. Actually, no, it's not. No, it's not. Because one way or another, we're playing 400, 800, whether that is based on a min-raise open or a straddle. But in any event, I basically make it 6,500. And now it's on Oscar with deuces. And I think he recognizes that we're not deep enough for him to set mine. Why he elects to bluff with this hand is beyond me. These just aren't the types of hand classes that you would want to choose. You want to choose hands that have removal to my best hands and allow me to have my bluffs. Now, granted, I'm probably not doing this with ace-deuce suited really ever. But to that end, you just leave me open to having queens, kings, aces, ace-king, ace-queen. Hands that are just like literally never giving up in this spot. So he goes about 3x, and I am pretty sure I elect to 4-bet to like a third of my stack. So I think I make it 50 here, if I recall.
What would you like for past Berkey to have done in this spot as far as sizing?
I think I played it well, aside from I think the 3-bet is too large. So if we go off the presumption that Oscar opened to 800, which he did do from time to time, I think my 3-bet size should be something more in the neighborhood of probably in the neighborhood of like 4,000-ish, give or take. But my 5-bet size is very good, I think. And
Oscar does lay it down. I mean, the 4-bet with deuces, you don't see that all too often. And
it's a rare play for sure.
We love to see it. For the people who are just tuning in, as I see more and more people flocking to the stream, which we really appreciate, we are watching the super high roller cash game from 2019 featuring Daniel Negreanu, Matt Berkey, Justin Young, Oscar Ng, and you see Bob right there as well at the table. This is a cash game. They're playing 200, 400. If you want to watch this without our commentary, you can do so on PokerGO right now. All this is available to watch. Oh, by the way, Robert says that I got him hooked on Topo Chico. It is my favorite sparkling water, even though right now I'm slumming it out with a bubbly water. For the people in the chat, do let us know what you're drinking. I'm kind of curious if we have any good beers in the chat today. Bob right here getting involved. Bob is known to be fairly tight. King 10 suited, however, is still strong enough to play a 3-bet pot with against him.
Yeah, I think so. You need hands like this in your 3-betting range, no matter how tight an opponent is. It just has such strong playability post-flop. Don't get me wrong, I don't have to 3-bet it every time because the same characteristics of Bob apply, whether it's a single raise pot or a 3-bet pot. So, I could just call and take it away post-flop some of the time. And the issue with 3-betting it is I probably should be turn barreling here almost always for big, like somewhere around pot. And as you can see with him having 2 jacks, that would have worked. But the problem is that against Bob, I think he has way too much ace X. even if it's like ace-9 offsuit, those types of hands. So I kind of put myself in a blender where now the pot's inflated and I can't really go for it. And as you see, he goes with the old 20% size on the river. Probably could just check his hand. I don't think he's ever getting called by worse there, but he's just setting his own price, I suppose, where for the times that he loses versus like king queen, he pays the minimum.
Right. Yeah, interesting always to have him in the mix. Every now and then he comes out with a slam dunk, and it's really fun to watch.
He makes some wild folds though. Like I remember he folded I can't remember if he had a straight or a set versus Seaver, who either had a full house or a straight.
Yeah.
I
know the hand you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I think Bob had queens. Or king queen, one or the other. But in any event, he just made like this monster fold versus one bet. And it's like, how? How do you know?
I mean, that is just incredible. A big compliment here from Warren Edwards on YouTube. He says, Berkey, I've been with you since the beginning. A great A cash game player, and I really think you are an underrated tournament player. You are truly an elite poker mind and great for poker. There we go.
Nice, Warren.
Throwing in a compliment there. Macarius is drinking Lucky Buddha beer. Sounds like you're having a great night, Macarius. I appreciate you tuning in. And then Dep Dabby says tap water. Shout out to tap water. I love tap water. Wow. I drink tap
water. It's strong.
I drink tap water all the time. Very, very economical. You're paying for that stuff already, so you might as well drink it. Just don't drink the water after you've made pasta with it. That's not a good idea.
That's disgusting.
That is disgusting. As far as the actually, by the way, this hand is pretty interesting. You against Justin. You're going to check fold on the river here, I'm assuming.
I feel like we got way too much money in the pot here somehow, and I'm not sure how. I'm guessing that I raise called a 3-bet, check called the flop. I should probably just like check fold the flop, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean this whole day of stream was just so volatile. There was just so much action happening. What I wanted to know is with the pandemic, quieting down a little bit in most places, and of course, people getting vaccinated left and right. What is your view on where live poker stands right now? Is it blossoming in Vegas already? I have not been to a casino since March last year, but I do believe there's tournaments happening again. I'm hearing things about cash games. Like what's the latest you've heard?
Yeah, no, man, it's been kind of in full swing since like last fall, I would say. The thing is that the recreational money just drives that ecosystem. And there are just a lot of businessmen who are chomping at the bit to get out of the house. I'm going to play a 5K WPT tomorrow at the Venetian. It's one of those things where it's like, it's difficult for me to take a hard stance because none of us know enough. And I only know the level of risk I'm willing to take on. I've already had COVID, so I had it recently. I have the antibodies, which is nice, but like at the same token, like there is some sense of social responsibility where you put yourself in a scenario to not spread, to not like put other people in danger. It's really difficult for me to know where that line is drawn. And I think for a lot of us, it's just we're just kind of like following suit. Like, oh, well, if the majority of people that make up for our bottom line are playing live poker, then I guess that's where we're going to start showing up.
Yeah, can't really blame you for that. When and if the WSP comes back, do you think that's going to be a big success, or do you think people will be hesitant depending on whether it's in July, August, maybe October, November?
I think that they're going to be pretty diligent about when they run it, to the point where they have high consumer confidence. And I honestly think that this might be the biggest main event ever. I know we say that every year, but I do feel like, the dollar is declining in worth, and poker's popularity seems to be at least staying steady, if not rising slightly. So I wouldn't be shocked to just see like record numbers pouring out.
I'll say it right now. If the WSP main event happens in October or later this year, I think we're going to have 10,000 players in the main event. I don't
think that that's far off.
I think also the fact that you can use an NBA Top Shot or a quarter of a cryptocurrency to buy into this this amazing lottery is going to drive a lot of people to the WSOP.
Yeah. I actually agree with both of those points.
And $10,000 just doesn't seem like a lot of money anymore to those people that are involved in those things.
Well, I mean, the thing is we haven't really increased the buy-in according to inflation.
Right.
So, of course, year in and year out, it's just going to seem a little bit smaller, all things considered. But I also think that like it shouldn't change, right? Like it's a good price point and it should remain there, especially as a freeze out.
It's funny though, because if you look back at the 70s, I'm going to estimate and say that it was probably 6x as far as if you look at the way the dollar has decreased. So $60,000 buy-in, and that had like, you know, 1, 2, and then 3, 4 tables. Basically, the current super high roller world, that is what the main event used to be.
Yeah, yeah, I actually agree with that completely, and it makes perfect sense that the high roller stratosphere community exists. You're right. It's very similar to what the original concept of the WSOP was.
And now hoping for five-figure participants in the WSP main event. Let me know your number, your prediction for the 2021 WSP main event in the chat. How many players do you think is going to get? Off the top of my head, I think the record is something in the 87, 8,800 range. Back, what was it? Did we break the record last year?
Yeah, good question.
I think we broke the record, but not the biggest first prize because that was just insane.
Right.
Jamie Gold, 12 million. Paul Wasika, 6 million. $6 million heads up. No chops. Let's go.
Wow.
Shout out to the good old days. Let's see. 1B Frank says, does WSP accept Bitcoin? Berkey, I don't think they do, but should that be an option?
No. I mean, if they're smart, it would be an option. I would imagine these corporations would want to put as much of these assets on the books as possible. I mean, we're seeing places like Tesla go this route. There's just a lot of corporate money that's coming into the crypto space. And for like WSOP.com, just being able to accept that as a payment is a nice way to put yourself into the market without actually having to go out and buy.
Yeah, I think it would be awesome.
Well, this hand's wild.
Okay, let's go.
I win this hand pre-flop.
Hold on. What?
Yeah. Crazy.
Oh my God. Okay, let's listen to the commentary by Ali and Nick to see what they had to say.
Three awfully good hands here.
I like
and the fives for Johnson as well. They're at the back, of course.
Feel like crap.
Depends which carbs. I don't know. I never feel.
Well, I'm saying like the heavy, like
Yeah,
pizza,
that's what I'm saying. When we
lasagna.
say carbs, like when I eat, a plate of when I eat some fruit after.
All right, it's Daniel Negreanu Diet Talk, so let's just turn that down a little bit. Let's see. So Bob calls. You're in the middle here with the big decision. What's going through your mind?
So Bob opened under the gun. I flatted him with jacks, which I think is reasonable in early position against somebody who's too wide. Justin then squeezes, who I think can recognize that Bob has a pretty wide range, and I also should. Then Bob calls, which represents to me that he doesn't have top of range. And now I'm in a situation where, like, I'm under-repped. So, like, to me, this was a layup 4-bet. I think my sizing is pretty good. Justin's getting about 2 1/3 to 1, which is pretty standard in a 4-bet spot. He's in position. It's representing about, 15% of his stack, give or take. Pretty natural call spot for him, I think.
And you already spoiled it. He's not going to call. Have you talked to Justin about this hand afterwards?
Yeah. He just basically he had like a huge read on that I was trapping Bob to begin with. And he was just really confident that I had a hand like aces or kings. And at worst would only have ace king, which I can actually understand. Like jacks here is a very strange hand. It needs protection. So like I'm more likely to 3-bet jacks than kings or aces, right? So from that line of thinking, he's not necessarily that wrong or that far off. And I think it's just one of those hero moments on TV. He just had to do it, Can't blame him sometimes.
I mean, Doug Polk looked like a genius last night on high stakes poker. In this situation, if you have aces, Justin Young looks like a genius.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing with Bob. Like, there's no way Bob can fold his hand.
Right.
It's like even less likely that I have aces or kings.
And the funniest part is that you don't get to see their cards. So you're like, okay.
I think that I just executed. I think Justin squeezed king queen suited and Bob has ace dust. And I'm patting myself on the back oh man, I just denied 60% equity between the two.
Oh my God, it's so funny. I love this. I mean, hindsight 2020. You did the show. I mean, it's just the best way to look at poker. It's just so much fun to look back at this. By the way, great show on PokerGo. If you guys want to hear some expert analysis from Berkey on PokerGo, just type in hindsight in the search. Some really good breakdowns of the old WSP final tables. And one of the most interesting part of those episodes is the realization of how much money you at home watching could have made if you had known what you know now 15 years ago.
That's true, man. There was a lot of money in the streets.
Oh my God, it's pretty crazy. 1B Frank says Berkey is unaware of his own genius. LOL. Based on that hand. Kigo corrects us, and thank you for that. He says 2019 was the second largest ever made. Yes, so we have not broken the Jamie Gold record just yet. But I think we're due. I think we're due to break that. Dana White says, does Berkey have any backers? Matt, how do you approach this? I mean, it's not normal to do interviews with people and then ask them about their financial situation, but in poker that seems to be unavoidable sometimes. People are so curious about the numbers. Do you still sell action for the big games, or are we peaking? Are we doing well?
I am peaking for sure. It's one of those things where I think people need to be more transparent about it. Like, I think I catch a lot of criticism because I'm open about this type of stuff. During this time, yes, I was backed. I had a pretty big deal where we were basically working with like 5 million in liquidity, and I was able to play everything up to like 2K, 4K if I wanted to, which is, it's necessary to have backing in those instances, whether you're selling or you just have a full-time backer. Now I'm playing smaller. These games just don't run anymore. The biggest games that really run are like 200, 400, which I could mostly play on my own, I guess, out of like sheer comfort and responsibility. I often sell for 200, 400, but I play 1-2 on my own. So yeah, I don't really need it any longer for the games that are available to me. But like if I ever get invited to high stakes poker or something like that, I'll almost certainly be selling action. Right.
And do you think that's okay in televised games where?
Oh God, yeah, they wouldn't exist otherwise. Right, like no slight against any of the pros who play in these games, myself included, but like we don't have tens of millions of dollars, and that's what's necessary in order to play stakes this high. Like, Oscar is seemingly independently wealthy one way or another, or he has a backing deal that we don't know about. I don't know.
Right.
But if you want to sit $500,000 deep in a game, that means that you have to be worth like 50x that. And there are just very few people who are worth 25 million strictly from poker.
Right. Yeah, it's a very good point, and I appreciate your openness and honesty, because it is sometimes being looked at as a shady thing. Talking about swaps and selling action and stuff like that, which of course swaps is more so a tournament thing. But still, your openness is going to help shine more light on the inner workings of that high stakes cash game world, and it's very interesting to learn more about it. By the way, on that note, if you guys, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, have any questions for Berkey, please send them into the chat. I will try to answer or to get them all answered during the course of this show. Lots of guesses on the WSP main event size, some creative ones. 6969, nice, I appreciate it. 7777, also really good. I do want to go with 12,247. I think that would be great if we have that many players in the WSP main event. Once more, by the way, this show is from 2019, the Super High Roller Cash Game. It is available on PokerGo. There's many shows like this on PokerGo as well that were taped between 2017 and the start of the pandemic. So you guys might have missed some of that action. It is all available on there. This is actually interesting as well. Trower Snakes on Twitch is not really asking a question, but he says the thing is, even on websites like Hendon that list total winnings for players with millions of dollars, they still have to pay millions of dollars in buy-ins to play these tournaments to begin with. Matt, is the high stakes tournament world perhaps even more misunderstood than the cash games?
I just think that it's maybe misrepresented. People are just very impractical about what they expect. So a guy like Bryn Kenny, who has 50 million plus in earnings or whatever, it's like, yeah, that's not all profit, of course, but like he's made over 10 million for sure. His ROI is certainly 20%,
right?
At least, But the problem is like, to that point, the media puts it out as won 50 million or won 60 million or whatever the case may be. It's like, well, that's not entirely true. You know, obviously he didn't have all of his own action for most of it. Obviously, he has buy-ins to account for. To what degree, we're not really sure. But like, does it matter? You know, like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
If the guy is the #1 all-time money earner, you can be sure that he's profitable. Like, there's almost a 0% chance that he's not profitable. You just can't play that many live tournaments in a lifetime.
Very good point. You can put a couple million a year in buy-ins if you're playing all the events in a non-pandemic year, but that also means you're going to hit a few every now and then. Because the fields are pretty small. Always Cash is asking, where is the Poker Out Loud season premiere? Well, I think I saw one on YouTube, and then there's also one coming out on your own platform, right?
Yeah, so we did a vlogger season that is on YouTube. You can watch the first episode now. Each additional episode comes out every Tuesday at 4 p.m. But we're also putting out a much tougher lineup that should be a lot more instructive on our site, tv.solvefory.io, where it's myself, Landon Tice, Jeremiah Williams, Lin G, and Chris Konvalinka battling it out in the 510 streets. That launches tomorrow, actually. Or sorry, Saturday. I keep thinking today's Friday. So yeah, that will launch Saturday afternoon. We're only putting one out this month, and then our subscription price is going from $9.99 a month to $50 a month in April 1st, or on April 1st, by which we'll be putting out 4 episodes a month.
Wow, very, very exciting stuff. Let me ask you, on the topic of Poker Out Loud, what was the big takeaway you spotted from this season? Have you already been able to see some of what's been said?
It's just night and day, the level of study, right? Like, it's just so apparent how much work goes into those sound strategies that exist. And this is no slight against the vloggers. I think that they did great. Matter of fact, anybody who's willing to put themselves in that sort of position and be vulnerable enough to speak their thoughts out loud and on camera to suffer the criticism deserves all of the credit in the world. But there's just a massive difference between, that lineup I just mentioned. All of us except Chris have played at least 100, 200. So there's just a huge difference between those of us who have played those stakes versus the vloggers who are mostly in the 2-5, 5-10 streets, where, the play is going to be a little bit more erratic and theory isn't necessarily going to serve you quite as well.
Right. It's very interesting. Getting some questions about how do you have a big percentage of Landon in his heads-up match? Of course, I forgot to mention that Landon is going to square off against Bill Perkins. Give us the details on that match. I know you and Landon are pretty close. And how do you look at that one?
Yeah, I'm nervous, man. I think he's laying a pretty big spot here. 9 big blinds is a lot to overcome, and Landon isn't coming into this as a heads-up specialist. He's going to get there. Don't get me wrong. I have all the faith in the world regarding that. But I am a lot less certain that he's currently beating Bill for 15 or 20 big blinds per 100. So I expect there to be a lot of variance. I expect there to be some bloodshed, to say the least, between the two of them. And I do ultimately expect him to win, but I don't think it's going to be a situation where he's just making infinite.
Right. So Landon is spotting Bill Perkins 9 big blinds per 100. They're going to play 25,000 hands, correct?
Yep.
And that's going to mean that they're going to be playing for many months because Bill Perkins is very rich, which probably means that he doesn't have as much time as the average Joe to play a lot of heads-up poker. So can we just expect Landon, win or lose, to become infinitely better at poker and therefore profit a lot in the long run?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the kid's a beast. No, I haven't met anybody with his drive to study. So one way or another, he's going to get there. You're going to hear his name for quite some time. I'm certain of that. I think to some level, he might be doing himself a disservice. Like, it's just kind of too soon, if that makes sense. Because he doesn't have a big piece of himself. So this might be a big money opportunity where everybody else gets rich except for him.
Right.
And then moving on down the line, people just think that, he's maybe too good to take up this opportunity, or he has to lay a bigger spot, or I worry that he's kind of cutting off his nose to spite his face a little bit.
Sounds like Stu Unger if you're being honest. And of course, that's because I recently re-listened to the Stu Unger One of a Kind audiobook in which Stu Unger embarrassed his opponents playing Gin Rummy, and then he couldn't find a game anywhere in the world because he just beat them so badly.
Right.
Landon, if you're watching, don't do that. Don't become Stu Unger. just beat him by 9.2 big blinds to make sure you make a little bit of money. For the people in the chat, please keep those questions coming. I appreciate it as always. And don't forget to like this video, by the way. Subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Twitch. We really appreciate it as always. I am doing this show every single Thursday. And in a few weeks, I'm not entirely sure when, I'm going to have Daniel Negreanu back on the show because he wanted to watch the 1998 WSP main event that was won by Scotty Wynn. So we're going to watch that.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
Me and Daniel are going to watch that. It's going to be absolutely epic. All right, what we got here? Bob Wright in the mix with the best hand, but no one really has anything. Interesting.
That's not going to stop Oscar. He is a wall.
Yeah, he has the high cards necessary, but of course, Bob has the flush.
Yeah, he's drawing dead, but he's going to put a lot of money into this pot, I think. I actually think this pot gets really big if I remember correctly.
I love that. I guess we're paying attention at the right time. Bob bet 6,500, and then here comes Oscar with the raise. 21K in there. People in the chat are saying that Perkins is going to take it. It's going to be... I think it's going to be an absolute madhouse. I think the swings are going to be incredible. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. And, given how this year is progressing, we can do with some more heads-up challenges to watch as poker fans.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be absolutely an awesome show. I'm sure of that. I'm less sure that... Oh, that's right. Oscar makes the second nuts here.
Oh.
I knew a lot of money went in here somehow. I think he might double Bob. I'm not sure.
Well, given Oscar's aggression on the turn... Was that a very small bet, or did you just see it wrong?
I think it's a very small bet.
Yeah.
Yeah, he bet 15,000. This is actually very smart by him because he needs Bob to call with a very bad hand or like exactly the jack of diamonds, right? So Bob's not going to pay a big price. And when Bob shoves, when a player like Bob shoves, you just know he has the nuts.
Right. It's the Hellmuth effect.
Yeah, especially on a paired board too. Right, so like Bob can have more than just the nut flush. He could also just have like some full houses. Wow, Bob just calls.
Wow.
That also kind of demonstrates the power of that sizing.
That is really interesting.
Really good spot for a block bet by Oscar. Not such a great spot on the turn for the raise. He gets a little ambitious. Let's put it that way.
Ambition and suicidal tendencies. Those are the two things that we've been looking for today.
The guy has heart, man. He has all the heart in the world. And I don't want to discredit him. He's certainly a winning poker player. There's little doubt about that.
I've had the pleasure to meet Oscar a few times. I gave him a tour of the studio the first time I saw him here in Vegas. He's good friends with a friend of mine, Martin Garretts, and he's just an all-class guy. Super
Yeah,
fun.
totally agree. Do you know how old he is?
I have no idea.
He is like 28.
Shut up.
So young.
What?
Yeah, he might be like 29 or 30 now because it's been a while. But when I first met him, I think he was like 26 or 27.
Wow. I had him picked for like mid to late 30s. I don't know why. That's really funny. He dresses very well. You must appreciate the
for sure.
the suit choice. You must have been sad that you didn't put on the baby blue suit that you have with the big maroon bow tie.
I went with the Marty McFly look, Remko, and I think I pulled it off.
You did. You went back to the future, back to the streets. I can only respect that. Dylan Wiseman chiming in on Twitch. He says, got a statement and a question. Please ask Berkey the best idea he's ever had in a hot tub.
So he's referencing a conversation he and I had, I guess, 3 or 4 days ago. And the worst part is I don't remember. I remember the conversation. I don't remember the idea, though.
Wow, Dylan. I hope you wrote your idea down because
apparently I'm glad he was there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise this idea would just fall into the ether.
Man, so many ideas always go to waste because you're drunk in a hot tub and you just can't remember the following day. He also says, if you ever want to go over PLO final table, let me know. I'll be in touch, Dylan. We definitely have one show a week and I'll squeeze you in at some point. pick your favorite PLO action that's on PokerGo and hit me up. Slide into those DMs, and we'll make it happen at some point. If you have some good hot takes to share for a special PLO episode. Rich Frey in the house on Facebook says, Tacoma, Washington in the house. I appreciate you watching, Rich, and everyone else. Please let me know where you're watching from. Haven't seen too many people shout out their locale today on the show, but I would love to hear more from everyone. Multiple people are asking about Garrett Adelstein. Is Garrett Adelstein missing? Are we worried about him? Matt, have you spoken to him lately? Is he back in action?
I think that he's probably just enjoying the time away from live poker for a while. I imagine he's going to be back with a Fury shortly enough.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he would be in the mix. Slacktivist watching from Denmark. I appreciate it. It's awesome. Let's see. Trower Snake says, in order to be on the PokerGo live stream, do you have to wear your hat backwards while indoors, or is it optional? Totally optional. Highly recommended, however, because it makes you look very cool. Just be aware of that. Matt, by the way, if you are alone in your home, do you wear a hat?
No.
So
I wouldn't even have one on right now, except I just did the vlogcast, so I already had it ready to go. Like, I'm dressed. You know?
So wait, so the hat is like an image builder in that sense?
Well, I mean, no, it's just part of this outfit that I have on. Like, if the hat didn't go, then I would just, I'd be rocking it like I am on TV right now.
I was gonna say, on TV you look so crisp, you look so smooth. I've never was a hat guy until PokerGo made, and this is actually no promotion at all. I have the giant head. I have a size 8 in case.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly the response. I have a size 8 head, and it might not seem that way, but the only hats that fit me are these new PokerGo hats. They're just fantastic. They're so adjustable. Even this on the largest setting gives me a fucking thing on my head. Anyway, I'm done with the hat for now. I'm gonna let the hair out. The hair, for as long as I still have hair, might as well show it off. It's getting thin up top. I gotta watch out. San Antonio, Texas in the house. I appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, please keep them coming. People joking about Garrett collecting unemployment and getting fat off Tostitos. I hope he is fat, because that guy is so ripped.
Literally no shot.
Just like Matt Berkey and Jason Kuhn. God, I wish I had that physique. But hey, we still got time. Let's see.
Keep biking, man. You'll be good. I
know. I lost a lot of weight. Just I'm getting skinny, not strong, because I gotta go back to the gym. For the people on YouTube, don't forget to keep liking this video and subscribe to the channel. We hit 100K subscribers earlier this year. We're really, really proud of that. Meanwhile, Mr. Negreanu has a set. Haven't seen him involved in too many hands. Let's see if this goes anywhere. We got a flush draw and a draw for Mr. Johnson over here. Mr. Berkey has a draw as well, but not nearly as good a draw.
Muck it. Good man. Good man.
Very, very good. All right, let's see where this goes. Negreanu, who was very chatty earlier, gets very quiet here as the hand gets more intense. 10K, pot size bet. Did I see that right?
Yeah.
Do you think that Daniel, with what he's learned since, would have picked a different sizing? Is that something that would immediately be changed based on GTO, or do you think that given the board, that is sort of normal?
This is appropriate. He could potentially overbet. Yeah, Chris is defending the big blind, I think. So it's not like he has a pile of queen jack. Yeah, I think you kind of want to like overbet the turn. Oh no, Chris is in the cutoff. How is he in the cutoff?
Cutoff button. You were in the big blind.
What's he doing with Jack 5 suited? So I'm guessing he opened, Daniel flatted. I called from the big. Yeah, in that particular instance, well, whatever. If you're gonna bet in Daniel's shoes, you bet very large.
Right.
So you could be anywhere between pot and like maybe as big as like 1.5 or 2x pot. His hand probably checks at some frequency as well. It just depends on what his image of Chris Johnson is. Like, how often is Chris Johnson check raising? The fact that he didn't check raise Jack 5 of hearts there means that he's probably almost never check raising. Without it anyway. Right. Like, he almost certainly has Queen Jack if he check raises.
Another question coming in on Twitch. Hey, Berkey, at this stage in your poker career, would winning a WSOP bracelet mean anything to you?
Yeah, man. Winning always matters. I don't think, like, a bracelet is a defining resume bullet point necessarily, but it's a nice one to have. You know, I'm 18 years into my career. I have, I think, 9 WSOP final tables with online included, and the bracelet has eluded me. So it'd feel a hell of a lot better to have, you know, 3, 4, 7, 9 bracelets than it does have 0. But at the same token, like, I'm playing the events because I think they're really profitable, and because I think that it makes sense as a poker player to seek value. It's really not that important to me to necessarily have the trophy.
Right. So looking for value, does it also mean that you may not be having as much fun? You're just there to get a check?
Nah, the sweats of like the series are such a blast. And yeah, I mean, it's still meaningful to like bag a chip lead or come back to a final table or whatever the case may be. Like, that stuff's an absolute blast to kind of ride the ride. I think it's hard not to have fun during the summer.
When I play the $20 nightly at South Point and we're on the bubble, I'm having a blast. If I'm playing a 1-3 cash game, I'm just like sitting on my money. I'm just like not having a good time. I mean, maybe
it sounds like you have an issue with risk, Remko.
I have an issue with, I don't have enough money for it to matter what I can play. But then when I play a tournament, it's not about the money.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, you're fixed. Your cost is fixed.
It's just I missed the nightly tournament at the South Point. That's basically what I'm saying. Austin says, and this isn't a question that I think will apply to a lot of beginners who will come to me with questions all the time that are very much in a vacuum, that are hard to analyze, but I do want to pose it to you and get your response because I know you're a great teacher. He says, how would you play Ace King suited if you had 2 raises in front of you? Very wide open question, but how do you approach a question like that, Matt?
I mean, almost certainly 4-bet. Obviously, stack depth matters, positioning matters, all that other stuff. Basically, every single hand history question you're ever going to come up with is a matter of stack to pot ratio. So it's really just figuring out, like, how many pot size bets do you have left, and the stronger your hand, the closer to all in you want to be anytime you have the opportunity to do so. Ace King ranks that highly. Obviously, if you're against opponents where you just know that they never have worse hands, they never have Ace Queen, and they never fold hands like Jacks or Tens, then, you know, it's maybe reasonable every once in a while to just make a really exploitative fold. But you don't want to make a living out of folding Ace King. That's no way to thrive.
It's no way to live.
Yeah. You know, you gotta get on the edge a little bit. Find some sort of hand to put a lot of money in with. Seems like a pretty good one.
Here you come with the raise to 2.5K after Negreanu straddled to 800. You have the King Jack of Spades. Let's see if this goes anywhere. 2,500 raise off a $800 straddle is so much smaller than what I've seen you do before at just 200, 400 opening 4x. Yep. What's the thought process there?
Again, stack to pot ratio. You're now playing double the stakes, which cuts everybody's stack in half. So like Negreanu, who's in the straddle, effectively only has a little over 100 big blinds as opposed to almost 250 big blinds. So yeah, I guess he has like 125 blinds, but even less now that we're at 3 blinds instead of 2. So yeah, I think it's an important thing that most people don't really recognize is if the average raise size is more than 3x, or there's a third blind / straddle, what has effectively happened is the stakes have doubled. So even if you're playing $1, $2, and the average raise size is say $10, in truth, you're playing 2-5.
Right.
You're just playing a very small 2-5 game, but you're playing 2-5 because what's ultimately happening is when that $10 gets put into the pot, it's now blowing that pot up to that size, right? And once that begins to occur, now the amount of pot size bets you have remaining as another player who's considering coming into the pot is far fewer. So if you start the hand with $200 and you just immediately recognize somebody opened to 10 and now you're actually playing a 2-5 game instead of 1-2, what you can recognize is you only have 40 big blinds. And now you're doing a lot more aggressive 3-betting and almost no calling. Whereas if you treat it as you're still 100 big blinds deep, what happens is you do too much calling and now you have very few pot size bets left. and you find yourself in weird post-flop scenarios where you have strong hands that have to fold because you're facing big bets.
Very good advice. That is very good advice. That is very applicable in everyone's home game and in everyone's local low-stakes game where you see a lot of 5x, 6x raises before the flop in smaller stakes cash games at least. So that is something to really keep in mind. GTO 42069, that is a great name on Twitch, is asking, how hard does Berkey still think he can control right now? I know he used to play baseball. I wonder how much he has left in the arm.
Great question. Not much. I haven't thrown a ball. I mean, I play softball still, but I haven't actually pitched in 7 years, maybe.
Wow.
I think that I topped out at probably like 86 at my peak. I think I would maybe be throwing like 75 right now with no training. I think I could probably get back up to like 81, 82 if I were able to start training again.
Hold on. So you can throw 75 miles an hour off the couch, just like that?
Oh, for sure. I might be lowballing myself. I could probably like hump it up to 77, 78, but like that's not fast.
Oh, that's not fast. I mean, that like if you go to the average town fair where they have a radar gun, no one's getting over 50. No,
but they're couch potatoes, man. Like if you go find an ex-NBA star, he's still going to be able to dunk at 60.
Okay. So
like Jordan can definitely still throw down.
So it's more muscle memory than anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. And can you throw strikes?
I think I would throw more strikes than I would speed.
Okay.
Like control's a lot easier when you're not throwing that hard.
So hold on. So if you said you topped out at 86, that you're basically saying that to get from 86 to 96 is basically the entire challenge of playing baseball as a pitcher. That is the difference.
It's what makes people the 1% of 1%.
Right.
Like they're just born with some sort of gift that allows them to do it.
Wow. That is so fascinating. Now that I know this information, I'm looking at baseball in a different way when I see some of these guys rip off 101, 102 in consecutive pitches. It's just insane.
It's really incredible. Like I don't know how they do it, to be quite honest.
So more muscle is not the answer.
Right. It is not. Trust me, I tried. It doesn't work.
Oh man.
Man.
Oh.
I really screwed the pooch here. So basically this situation, Justin was 150 big blinds effective to start. I open cutoff, he 3-bets button. I choose the 4-bet, get it in with jacks, which I think is fairly reasonable against Justin because I think he 3-bets pretty widely. I think he's going to have linear hands like queen jack suited, king queen, ace 10 suited, stuff like that I want to deny equity to. Unfortunate to run into the top of range here. My hand could call, and it would call against a tighter player, but I think against Justin it's pretty fine to just go for it here.
You guys run it multiple times, or?
We do. I think I hit a jack.
Oh, there we go.
Not to spoil, but I'm pretty sure I win this session, and this helps.
that is the difference maker. As you said, Phil Hellmuth sometimes has the deck in his favor.
Yeah, I mean, you want to play 200 hands. Sometimes you have to get a little bit fortunate. You get unlucky first to run the spot to begin with, right? But then sometimes you get bailed out by the deck.
That's why I always lose my mind when someone is very proud of themselves doubling up with aces versus kings. I'm like, you did nothing there. You won the flip before the flip.
Right.
You got dealt the winner. Good job, buddy. Pat yourself on the back. All right. As you guys are watching a showdown, please do.
Hey yo.
There's the jack. Justin Young, sick to his stomach, as always. Bring this man more whiskey. Please keep liking this video and subscribing to our channel. I really appreciate it. I do the show once a week, every Thursday, having big guests coming up in the near future. I have Timothy Adams, Sam Trickett, Daniel Negreanu, all lined up for the next few weeks. The order is not yet set yet, but they've all confirmed to be on the show, so that should be a good time. Let's see. Another question coming in on Twitch. Do you have any DGen gambling stories? Matt, are you a gambler at heart?
In game, yes. In life, not really. I don't like being out of control. So like the idea of like firing off on a sports bet or something of that nature doesn't really do it for me. Wow, Oscar folded tens this hand. I forgot about that. Would have made quads on the second run. Justin would have got scooped.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't really have any degeneracy when it comes to like firing hard on anything like that. I think the biggest prop bet I ever made was whenever I bet Christian laying 5-1 that he couldn't lose half his body fat in a year. So I was risking 25K to win 5K.
Did he do it?
No, didn't come close.
Wow.
So like in that scenario, I don't even really feel like I'm firing off. I'm trying to help a friend, and I think I'm like not a favorite at those odds. I think that he was probably closer to like 3-1 if he actually cared and tried his hardest. But even if I am taking the slight worst of it, it doesn't feel like a degenerate moment, right? It doesn't really feel like I'm firing it off.
But as far as being a degenerate, you've told stories of your bankroll management. Some people would some people would consider that being a degenerate.
Oh yeah, if you want to talk about in-game, like I have plenty of stories for you. My biggest win ever in the big game, I sat with case money. So at the time I had a $1 million backing deal. I was 400K in makeup and I had 600K remaining. I walk into a 1K, 2K game. This was like 2014. It was a lot of the guys from Macau. So the like Pat Panda was in the game, for anybody who remembers him. He's like one of the bigger losers in online high stakes. Alfua was in the game, you know, that whole Triton crew, whatever. And then like Rick Solomon, Robo, JRB, and maybe, I think I took Bright Seat actually. But in any event, I had 600K left, which was about 300 blinds, and the minimum buy-in was 100. So I sat with 100, and like after an orbit, I just text my backers, and I was like, "Hey, we're either gonna do this or we're not, because this isn't gonna fly. So I'm either sitting with all of it, or I'm gonna give up a pretty lucrative spot." And they were just like, "We trust you. Go ahead." So I sit with 600, and I ended up cashing out 1.9 million.
That's
nice. Felt good.
That is that. Wow.
I also fired really hard on the super high roller bowl the first year. I had like 25% of myself at a time where I may only had, I think I might have had like $500,000 to my name, and I was putting up like 75K.
The beauty of that is, and most people probably won't remember this immediately, is that you decided to make a documentary about the tournament that you were going to play, investing a ton of money into yourself, and then you just fucking rip off a final table.
Yeah. It really all came together.
Proving,
man, what a boring story if that doesn't happen.
Proving once and for all that the small sample size, big swing is definitely worth it.
Very, very true. I wish that would have turned out to be a bigger thing. I'm really proud of everything that happened, and I'm glad that it has a home on PokerGo. But I also feel like because of the paywall, it's probably pretty limited in access, and there are just like tens of thousands of poker fans who probably have never seen it. Which now doesn't matter that much because we're 5 years removed. But at the time, that wasn't something that like had been done. It was a pretty remarkable thing.
I've watched it multiple times, and for those people who are watching right now who are either a subscriber or not a subscriber yet, it is definitely something you cannot miss. Search Dead Money on PokerGo. Go check that out. And if you're new to PokerGo, use the promo code HSP to take $20 off the annual sub. Support us. We have tons of content, and Dead Money is the best original programming that we have. I'd be willing to go that far and say that, because it's just an incredible journey that follows you not only at the poker table but also, you know, in your personal life. That really tells the whole story, and the fact that you made the final table is just insane. I think it's just must watch poker TV if you care even a little bit about the game as a whole. And I'm pretty sure that many people have seen and will see it in the future, and that's the beauty of that you guys did that at that point in time. You know, it'll be saved forever. That story will always be there, and will always be for someone to watch. Poker Sniper is asking on Twitch, when is the WSP live coming back? Poker Sniper, if you can tell us, we'd be very, very happy, because that's the $1 million question. At Seed, it's actually a $10 million question, to be honest. Hopeful for the fall, let's be honest. I think KevMatt tweeted that he spoke to some high-ranking executive at the WSOP saying that the fall is what they're targeting, or maybe they said that it's definitely not happening in June. I would say, you know, get in shape, enjoy your summer at home, and plan on coming to Las Vegas in the fall, which, by the way, is the best time of the year to come to Las Vegas. So
I'm so pumped that we are going to have a summer to do other things. Like, I was so excited last year, but because of the pandemic, like, it just really wasn't possible to travel or anything. I hope that the World Series permanently moves to the fall.
Right.
I think it would be like the greatest upgrade as a professional poker player we could ask for.
Yeah, definitely. And also, the WSP used to be in the spring for like the entire existence of the WSOP up until 2004. 2004. Yeah, that's when it changed.
Yeah. Spring would be great too. Fall feels preferable, but either way, as long as it's not the summer, I just don't want to be in Vegas in those months.
Yeah, fair enough. And Vegas is definitely the best climate from September until May, and then you need to get the hell out of town. Which is really funny. Let's see what else we got here for questions. Matt is wondering what they're saying at the table. Sorry, Matt. We are breaking it down for you today. If you want to watch this all unfold without our commentary, then you can watch this on the PokerGO platform. Just look for the Super High Roller Cash Game in the on-demand tab. This is from 2019. White Smoke on YouTube is saying Foxwoods Poker just opened back up today. Thank goodness, he's saying. Well, my friend, stay safe and do win some money. I appreciate you chiming in. People asking about the documentary Dead Money. Search for Dead Money on PokerGO. That's where you can find it. Make sure to chime in. JP Scott says this is really great insights, some crucial stuff. Thanks, Matt Berkey. Super interesting. We appreciate you.
Thanks, sir.
What else we got going on here? Mr. Final Table says, do you think online WSP will still run this summer in addition to live fall WSP? Don't get it twisted. WSP is not here to not make any money. So they are going to run a big series this summer and maybe multiple series. I think that...
Yeah, I think both will occur, to be quite honest.
And I think that's also here to stay. I think that once you've done that once, you cannot put that cat back in the bag. I think that's just going to happen now. For many years to come. And also, Matt, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. By the way, I hope I'm not missing any big hands here because I was totally distracted looking at the chat.
I just made a mistake on this river, but nothing too major happens. I think I bet fold.
Good watch also by Oscar there, sporting the gold rolly. A question for you. As sports betting legislation is just constantly evolving and spreading into more and more markets, do you think that poker is going to benefit from that in the long run? Personally, I feel as though there's been more interest in poker than in many, many years, even though we've had no live poker. What do you think?
I don't think it can hurt. Let's put it that way. I think a lot of the big interest in poker is coming from just a lot of people getting wealthy during a down economic time. The game really attracts the outliers, right? The people who have a fair amount of disposable income. And with asset classes going way up in value, with cryptocurrency being a thing that a lot of people who have interest in poker are kind of involved in, I don't think it's really all that shocking to see overall interest go up. Also, with people just being home more, this game kind of lends itself to the dream of being able to make money without putting out much effort. That said, how much of an impact will sports betting have? I don't know. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry compared to our industry that maybe be a couple $100 million industry, depending on like what we're using as a measuring stick. So, for sure it's going to have some impact. Just to what degree, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful that at least the live poker scene will be blossoming for many years to come, because online poker seems to be very, very tough. And even if you find some juicy games, those will dry up pretty quickly online, even though live they'll be more likely to run for an extended period of time. And ultimately, live tournaments is like the ultimate battleground, because that's where you can just show up with a bag of money and just measure yourself against the other people.
Very true.
Which is why I love events like the Super High Roller Bowl. An event like that, 300K buy-in, no re-entry. That's to me is like, that's the most exciting thing to watch of the year, along with, of course, the 10K WSP main event. But even WSP has introduced a lot more re-entry, which is I'm not really a big fan of that.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Let's see. Mark says, when's the best time to come to Vegas? He says he's actually going in 3 weeks. Well, you've made a great decision, because if you're going in 3 weeks, weather's going to be great. It's going to be nice and warm in the afternoons. poker action, of course, you got to go find that yourself. I'm not entirely up to date on all the latest. I know there's a big 5K happening right now, but I'm pretty sure there's plenty of action all around town with dividers and masks still being prevalent.
I've seen more 5100 games running in like the last 6 months than I ever have in like the last 4 or 5 years.
Whoa. Is that just at any casino, or are you in one place?
Largely it's been at the Wynn and Bellagio. And don't get me wrong, it's the same cast of characters, but in any event, like there's at least an effort for organization where in the past, I think a lot of these games just never got off and they were just forced to play like 10-20 instead.
Right. Yeah, White Smoke is chiming in saying I was at Mohegan Sun last week and there was a 3-hour wait. People are itching to play, he's saying. I mean, that's definitely a good point.
Degenerates.
Degenerates. Gamblers. Oh, disgusting. Yeah. Disgusting. I miss it. Here you are involved again against Oscar. This is, of course, a small pot, but it is funny to see that you guys are just always seeing rivers together.
I think he bets too small here. The 6 really hits his range pretty hard. He can have a lot of 9-10. Oh, he gets through though. I think he can bet something closer to pot.
He's got those dope ass glasses. I wish I had those. My head's probably too big for those anyway. A question on Twitch from Trower Snake, who's sending in some great questions, by the way. I appreciate it. Thank you. And don't forget to follow the channel. Same on YouTube and Facebook. Follow us, like, and subscribe. Do the show once a week. He's saying, what's it like playing on a table with Hellmuth? I feel like every time I watch him play cash games, he's always repeating the same rant about how he's the greatest.
Yeah, that's not far off. I think that's pretty accurate.
But,
he's just a nit, man. I said it at the start of the show. It's just one of those things where, like, it's our fault this guy's making money. We have to just start being diligent and not giving him action. Just fold good hands when he makes big bets. Bluff him a ton whenever he shows the propensity to being passive.
But if you want to make it on TV, you might as well try to bust him, because that would make
that's always nice.
But that also works in his favor, because then he's always going to show up with the nuts, and then you're just going to have a very small chance to beat him, which is how he makes a living. Seeing more comments in the chat from people saying that the wait lists have been pretty deep all around, which is kind of not really surprising. Robert saying the weekly win tournament rocks. I believe it's a Saturday event, if it's still the same. $200 buy-in with re-entries. I've played that a few times. That's a great tournament. You actually get a lot of play. So if you are a mid-stakes player, mid to low stakes like myself, that is probably a great way. Or a weekend warrior, I should say. Someone who just wants to come out and play. That win event is pretty fun. Is highly recommended, that one. Let's see what else we got here. His hands are pretty small between Justin and Oscar. It feels like the table talk has been pretty quiet on this table.
What get a word in over Daniel?
Yeah, fair enough. Let's talk about Brussels sprouts. It's hard to get a word in there. Are you staying fit and sharp during the pandemic? Are you still on that robotic routine of yours?
Yeah, I've been doing this 75 hard challenge where it's 2 workouts a day. 2 workouts a day, no cheat meals. Read 10 pages of nonfiction. Post a progress pic every day. And I mean, like, for me, it didn't really even deter my normal routine. It was just kind of no big deal. But the consistency, or at least the forced consistency, I've definitely had better progress than I have in the past. I lost that pandemic softness.
Do you have specific goals as far as, what you're chasing?
No, I mean, for me, I just want to live a healthy lifestyle. I want to eat well. I want to.
And I think we lost Berkey there for just a second.
As well, and kind of put in all of the grunt work to make sure that I both look and feel good. But the mirror test isn't nearly as important to me as like how I actually feel.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. The mirror sort of plays tricks on you. I used to be really fat, and now I'm pretty fit. But it's impossible for my brain to see myself as that. Not to go on a huge psychological tangent here, but I used to be 285 pounds. Some of you guys watching might remember that. This morning I was 168. So we're doing really well. But in the mirror, it's so weird psychologically. In the mirror, I just don't see it. It's really weird.
I mean, you look really thin for sure. I can't really speak to the nature of like whether you feel like you're just losing a lot of body mass or if on some level you feel like you're packing on muscle as well. But you definitely have like a leanness in your face and your overall physique. I think that, it's representative of a cardiovascular athlete.
Yeah. Oh man. Whew. Berkey called me an athlete, guys. Okay, we can just wrap the show up. All right, we're good. We're done. We're good. I start feeling more like an athlete because I'm training my ass off and I'm getting really strong. But yeah, I do need to work more on that core and upper body. I got really thin arms. But yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a lot of fun. I'll never forget that I ran into Dan O'Brien at PCA 2010, I believe, and it was legit raining outside, and it was probably about 55 degrees to 60, maybe 60 degrees Fahrenheit. And I was the only one in the pool yelling at Dan O'Brien to come into the water. And I was claiming to be a polar bear. It was pretty funny.
That is funny.
Mr. Final T says, where do you see the future of poker going as far as No Limit expanding and dominating as the game of choice, or as it becomes more solved, making a push for mixed games to draw amateurs back into the game?
I think mixed is a really tough sell. It's I don't know, man. There's a lot of complexity in learning all the different games, and it becomes very apparent to people pretty quickly that like you're not really carving out too much of an edge. You're kind of just like drawing to the river to see like how good the hand is that you make and things of that nature. Obviously, like I'm being a little reductive, and I don't mean to be. I don't have a lot of experience with mix. I just think that like it's not a shock that doesn't have a lot of popularity. I think we'll just see a bunch of adaptations of No Limit Hold'em as we see it currently. So I think we'll start adding big antes. I think we'll start doing 3 blinds. I think we'll start to increase stack depth. All these things make the solves a lot less valid. And then games like short deck will evolve. PLO might gain a little bit of popularity. I'm not sure. But mainly I think just like tournament poker, because of the variable stack depths throughout the course of it, really become the most challenging to solve as a whole. And I think that by and large, you'll see a lot of protection of both rec money and professional money that isn't necessarily top tier. You'll see a lot of that being protected by just the sheer volatility of MTTs.
In this situation, you bet 7,000 with a set of sevens. I really appreciate that. Here you check behind on a disgusting board.
Bad river.
Very bad river. Negreanu mucks the kings. You rake it in with a set of sevens. Mode the Cat says, Matt Berkey, are poker books nonfiction? Pretty sure they are. Also, if you want to have some advice on what to read, Mike Sexton, Life's a Gamble, and the book by Nolan Dalla on Stu Unger's life, One of a Kind. Highly recommend those. Also, Doyle Brunson's The Godfather of Poker, Mike Mattis, Check Raising the Devil. Those are just some of the nonfiction poker books that I could highly recommend. I've read all of them. Most of them are also available as audiobooks. Matt, is there still such a thing as a useful poker book? Does that still exist?
I haven't really read one, to be honest. Strategy books are pretty not great, but there are very good poker books out there. I'm gonna mess this up. Konnikova, yeah. Her book, The Biggest Bluff, is absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend getting the audio version as she reads it herself, and it's just excellent. I think like the Professor, the Banker, the Suicide King, I think that's a really fascinating book. I think Positively Fifth Street is another fascinating book. These books that aren't necessarily strategically centered, but more so about the lifestyle, about the characters. There's a lot of allure to this arena. And I think that like books like that, which put it on display, are pretty great.
Is there ever going to be a Matt Berkey tell-all?
No. But I have a blog that I swear I'm going to finish one of these days. I started on my backstory and got like up to college and then just kind of stopped. And that was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Huh.
One of these days I'm going to pick it back up and I'm going to get after it and catch it up to current date. So I do have some fun stories to tell. I've told almost all of them in public venues one way or another, but I think getting it out in the written word is kind of a different animal and probably has a lot of value to it.
If I can give you one piece of advice as someone who's written a ton of articles, is it's easy to forget how quick you forget details. I used to write a lot of blogs when I was traveling with Frank for Poker News doing live reporting, and we would do this. We would send each other letters, but they would be published on Poker News. So like I would be like, "Dear Frank," and I would tell about my adventures. Reading those back now, 15 years later, or 10 to 12 years later, I am shocked at the amount of detail in those blogs, none of which I remembered. So it's crazy how even a few little notes trigger your memory. It's the name of a street or the name of a restaurant or something like that. So yeah, if you're watching this and if you are thinking about writing something or if you like writing, do it in small pieces because you can piece together the whole story if you just have those notes with you. Because I was reading back some of those old blogs the other day and I was like, wow, these are fantastic to read. And if I were to retell that story now, I can again because I've got these notes to fall back on, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, it's really hard, man. Revisionist history is a thing. Like there are a lot of stories that when I told them for the first time were so clean and accurate, and the punchlines hit, and everything about it came together. Now the details are fuzzy, and like you have to kind of fill in the blanks in a lot of spots. I agree. I worry a lot about that. I took a lot of like simple notes when I was playing in the big game because there were a lot of things that I wanted to remember for the sake of storytelling, not really for the sake of hand history review. But I didn't take enough, right? Like this is something that I did occasionally when a story was told or a wild hand happened or something funny occurred. Like it was pretty rare.
Yeah, it's funny. Even for myself and doing short little videos on my trips to Vegas when I was 21, 22. Now looking back, I wish I'd taken more. Not to like publish, but just to have. It's so funny hearing yourself talk, especially 10 years later, and especially 15 years later.
Well, so much evolves, right? Like even just your line of thinking, it's just like I can't believe I ever thought that way.
Meanwhile, Oscar switches glasses on you to see if on Justin to see if he can make those help him make a good decision. Keeping it lighthearted with some jokes there. Omnius Germ on Twitch is wondering, Berkey, who's your favorite old school poker player?
I mean, what do we qualify as old school? Is Ivy old school? Because he would be up there, I think.
I think anyone who's played in a WSOP event 2003 or earlier. So Ivy does qualify, yes.
Ivy's up there. I mean, the thing is that I've like met and befriended a lot of them now, so it's kind of hard to see them in the same like light where you kind of looked up to them on the come up. But yeah, I have a ton of respect for Daniel. I have a ton of respect for obviously Ivy, and just the old guard as a whole. Like they really did pave the way, and they made it possible in a lot of regards for us to even have a public platform now. Obviously, we're all doing it very differently, right? Like we don't have online sites backing us. We don't have these major marketing machines churning out content for us, but we're kind of doing it on our own. We're creating these platforms on social media and YouTube and training sites and things of that nature, and we're giving it our damnedest. So I don't think that occurs without the pioneers of that generation, if you will.
Absolutely. What is it that you with Solve for Why and your own platform are looking to achieve besides, of course, subscribers?
I think figuring out a way to bridge the gap between poker and other industries is a pretty big passion of mine. I would like to get to a point where we have opportunities outside these four walls. But it's hard. I mean, it's not that there isn't a lot of overlap in the other communities. There obviously is. It's just more so like leading with value for the finance community or the sports betting community or esports or whatever. It's it's difficult to drum that up, especially if it's not your forte. So, you know, I'm a poker player first and foremost. My next best skill set might be like fitness and nutrition, but I'm by no means a dietitian or a doctor, and I'm by no means a bodybuilder or you know, somebody who can speak to that high level of competition. So yeah, it gets a little weird. But when I started the company, my main interest was problem solving from a root cause analysis standpoint, and I think that applies to all industries. So if we can build out the framework to take to other industries where we give them the ability to analyze issues that are plaguing them in some way, shape, or form through root cause analysis, I think that would be like a major win for what I hope to achieve.
That's great. And for the people who are unaware of Matt's own project, Solve for Why, check it out, YouTube, Twitter. They got a lot of good content. tv.solveforwhy.io, right?
Yep, correct.
I'm a quick learner. I paid attention.
Crushed it.
Noise Sauce says, Sexton reads his own audiobook. Pretty nice hearing his voice. Absolutely. I want to emphasize that. Check out Life's a Gamble audiobook on whatever audiobook platform you have. I think it's on Audible. That is definitely one for the ages. It's so hard to fathom that Mike's no longer with us. I mean, it's just really weird. I mean, I'm gonna
it really came out of nowhere too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure people who were close to him knew he was sick, but like those of us on the outside had no idea.
Yeah, and the thing that gives me chills, and even now talking about it, is that I was texting with Mike to run it back with him to watch his 2006 WSP Tournament of Champions that he won with him, and I was texting with him. I want to say this was in April or maybe May or June, and. Okay. He said, I'm feeling sick. Maybe later. I had no idea of the gravity of this moment. I ended up doing the show with Daniel, who finished second, and that was not too long before he passed, which is crazy. It's just so bizarre.
Yeah, pretty unfortunate.
That all moved so fast. DJ Plays Poker says, what was the one that had Fifth Street in it? It's called Positively Fifth Street. Incredible book. Was it about the WSP like 1999 or something?
I think, yeah, somewhere around that time frame. Really good. There was another one that I can't remember off the top of my head. It was a little bit of like cult classic. It was similar to Positively Fifth Street, but man, it was like Poker Nation or something like that.
Oh, I
honestly can't remember, but it was really fascinating. There was a part where he was talking about how mundane the grind was, that he would cut a hole in his sweatpants to jerk off at the table.
Oh my God. That's
like in the pocket of his sweatpants or whatever.
Okay. That's interesting. I also want to recommend Lost Vegas, written by my friend Paulie, Dr. Paulie, Tao of Poker, Tao of Bacon. His account of the 2005 WSOP is just mind-blowing. He was staying at a motel surrounded by cheap hookers and all sorts of drug deals, and that book called Lost Vegas is highly recommending that book as well.
Yeah,
go check
Poker Nation was the one that I was talking about.
Poker Nation?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta look. I haven't read that.
It's very off the cuff, but like pretty good read.
Interesting. Oh, 2002. Wow, yeah, that's.
Yeah, so it's all about limit poker because it was pre-boom.
Wow. This is fascinating. We're learning some stuff, chat. I appreciate it. All right, if you guys have any questions, please keep them coming. We got a few more minutes left on the show today. Watching the Super High Roller Cash Game from 2019. This is all available on PokerGo in full without our blabbering. And these are, by the way, both 7-hour streams. There's 2 7-hour streams available from this Super High Roller Cash Game. We also have new episodes of Poker After Dark and High Stakes Poker airing every Monday night and every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. If you are new to PokerGo, use the promo code HSP to take $20 off the annual subscription. If you are into poker merch, we have new hats, High Stakes Poker, Poker After Dark, a whole bunch of cool stuff. We have beer glasses, shot glasses, stickers, coasters, a whole bunch of stuff. We have new hoodies, new purple hoodies that are really comfortable, by the way. PokerGoshop.com. Use the promo code Remko, my first name, REMKO, to take 10% off your total purchase price. Lots of questions about my weight loss. I appreciate all the love in the chat. Do check me out. I have a cycling blog. It's called Fuck This Hill, FCK This Hill on Instagram. Go check that out. You can ask me any questions you want. It took me a long time to lose all the weight. Still not there yet. I'm still in the middle of a very expensive weight loss bet with 36 other poker players and degenerates. And up until a few weeks ago, I was losing very badly. But we got some time. April 15th is our final weigh-in date, and we're on track again. Let's see what else we got going on here. No, Daniel Negreanu did not pass away. Sorry. We were talking about Mike Sexton. I'm seeing some people in the chat thinking that we're talking about Daniel. But we're talking about Mike Sexton, who sadly passed away last year. If you look on YouTube, there's an incredible tribute hosted by Mike Matisow about Mike Sexton just a few days before he passed, which is very moving, very hard to watch, but definitely well worth diving into. Matt, what are you going to be working on for the next few weeks and months? I'm curious. Is live poker going to be the main focus, or is it going to be content?
It's going to be content in the short run for sure. I have, I guess we have a lot of a lot in the pipeline for Solve for Why. Our plans are to get back to normal, so we're increasing our price April 1st. Right now it's $9.99 a month. We're going to increase it to $50 a month. We are coming out with the new season of Poker Out Loud, as I mentioned. On top of that, we're going to start launching courses every month again, as we were in the past. We also have a few new faces that we may be incorporating into the team. So pretty excited for that whenever it comes through. We're also filling our free site. So I've been working on these whiteboard videos for quite some time that are, they're essentially like instructional videos of sort. It's just kind of a different take on simple concepts like EV, equity, things of that nature that are done in a more digestible way. I think that a lot of people would get a little intimidated by learning. So we tried to create a methodology that was free and would give them a pretty good rundown of how game theory operates and why it's important.
That seems like a good thing to turn into something digestible, as whenever the word GTO gets thrown around, people are like, I don't even know how to use that, which is probably the biggest issue, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's we wanted to create something that would make people a little less intimidated by the idea of study and also give them a little bit more direction moving forward. I think that, speaking from somebody who didn't start at the top of anything that he's ever done, I know how intimidating it can be, like, to walk into a gym for the first time and just get lost in a sea of equipment and not know what the hell it is that you're supposed to do. Poker is very similar, right? It's like you have 20 different sites that you could go to that are going to tell you 10 different things regarding charts and positions and databases and solves and all this other stuff. And at the crux of it all that matters is your core competency in the overarching theory, right? If you understand equity, if you understand EV, if you understand the math that drives the chaos behind this game, you'll be in a position to figure the rest out.
Absolutely. That is a great piece of advice that everybody should take to heart, and to also not be too intimidated by it, because there's a good way with Berkey's help to digest all that. Another question here coming in on Twitch. Are there any poker hands / big spots that you misplayed that stuck with you for a very long time afterwards?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I've been pretty good about having the relief pitcher mentality of like every day's a new day and just forget about the one of the past. But yeah, I mean, I've definitely played a lot of hands on TV I wish I could take back. One in particular was actually from the first Super High Roller Bowl cash game, where I had tripped sixes, where a flush completed, and I decided to turn my hand into a bluff versus what I was pretty sure was a flush. Just, pretty easy one to regret. It's like I could have just bet folded instead of bet 3-bet shoved, and it was the difference between winning 200K and like breaking even. So yeah, like things like that are kind of silly. I had a hand deep in PCA where I check folded a full house on the river incorrectly. That one didn't matter that much. That was with like 42 left, and I was chip leader like within a half hour. So it was kind of like, whatever. Tournaments, just you get forgiven a lot. Things happen where you may have made a mistake in the exact moment, but the deck kind of forgives you and just deals you all the right spots thereafter. Yeah, I mean, like, it's not something to focus on unless it's a glaring issue in your overall strategy that you could do better.
Right.
In which case, now, yeah, you should absolutely regret those hands and do a good job of correcting them.
Here we got nuts versus second nuts. Bob right all in. And
Wow.
there goes Oscar. Oh, my God. Wait, hold on just a minute here.
What a hero.
Okay, I'm going to turn up the audio. I want to hear this.
Awkward and brutal scenario.
Nick Schulman and Ali Najad on the call.
I mean, it's just,
This is no
oh,
big
wow.
show.
He wants all of it.
He does. $166,000 jam from Bob Wright. Oscar Ng finds himself with the second nuts. Does he just fold right away? Oscar,
Yes.
okay. Very well done. Doesn't waste any
19
time.
in
Wow.
auction.
Wow.
Most of the most
locked the
impressive
door.
things we've seen from
1900
Oscar
is
Ng in
also
this
not-
session have
Didn't
not
even-
produced a victory.
Wow.
Colin's the best.
That is one of the, I mean, I now that I see it, I remember it. That is one of the most impressive folds I've ever seen. And is
The
this,
speed at which he did it, too. Like, just no hesitancy.
I was going to say, does this qualify in the Hellmuth realm of the Duck Polk fold not being as good because of it being Hellmuth? Is Bob Wright in the same spot, someone that
Yeah.
you have to fold the second nuts to?
I think so. No slight against Bob, but I just think that ultimately is just true. When a guy doesn't have a bluff and you have the second nuts, all you have is a bluff catcher. And if if there are no bluffs in range, there's nothing to catch.
Bob Wright, if you're watching, all you have to do is bluff a bit more, and you're going to be absolutely destroying everyone.
Yeah, just have the naked ace of diamonds there and rip it for all of it, and suddenly you're a hero. He just snap mucks the second nuts.
Oh my God, Bob Wright, you've built up this image. You can benefit from this so much. No one's ever gonna not believe you.
They'll never see it coming.
They'll never see it coming. Berkey, will you live long enough to be that guy?
Oh, I already am that guy in a lot of ways. Just not from the bluffing standpoint. I think I pull the wool over people's eyes in a very different, viewy kind of way.
Oh my God, are we still limping all the time? Is that still a thing?
It's only ever been a tournament thing. I still do it. It's a lot less effective now that people are so much more competent post flop. The real reason behind it before was to keep stacks deep by comparison to pot size, and put people in awkward situations where they didn't know what to do with second pair or with a gut shot or whatever. But the cat's kind of out of the bag. People are pretty good nowadays at not overfolding. So there's a lot less necessity in limping, I guess, if that makes sense.
It's fun to watch. I like when I watch tournament poker, for the most part, when I'm watching it, I'm trying to make the decisions for you and then seeing if my decision making comes across in any sort of way. And when you start limping, I'm just like, I'm lost. I'm out. I'm out. I'm not playing anymore.
Yeah, it gets a little tough, a little tricky there.
It's true, but like I just picture that is one of the big reasons why you're doing it, because people don't see it that often.
Yeah, I mean, well, I started doing this in like 2009, and I did it from then until at least 2017, probably a lot less so thereafter. But it was so effective because people were A, bad post flop, and B, had no real counter strategy. So the second that becomes true, you're just able to really realize your edge. And realization is a big property of playing in these MTTs, right? Like, you need to be able to get to the river more than most people in order to win these things. And that was a methodology of doing so. It was putting yourself in a situation where, you just got to see more flops, turns, and rivers than the next guy, and that kind of yields you the ability to accumulate chips.
Absolutely. I love it. For the people on YouTube, we're at 71 likes. Can we get to 100 before the end of the show? I'd really appreciate that. Please hit that like button if you are enjoying the content. For everyone on Twitch, that's following, and on YouTube, that's liking. I need to learn all this terminology, apply it properly, and then hope that you guys will return the favor by pressing some of those buttons here as we've been watching the Super High Roller Cash game for the past 2 hours. And I'm hopeful that maybe at some point this year we can have Berkey back in the studio for some Super High Roller Cash or Poker After Dark or High Stakes Poker action, which would be a lot of fun to watch if we can bring a lineup like this back together. Any aspirations, Matt, playing high stakes tournaments this year?
Define high stakes.
25K and up?
I would play 25K and under. Pretty comfortable playing up to the 25Ks. I think once you start getting into the tiny fields of like 100Ks and above, I'm just not really cut out for that.
It's just a different like breed of people that you play against?
I mean, they're specialists, right? They're literally trained for that exact environment. They're putting most of their study into small field MTTs, where I'm putting the majority of my study into like deep stack live cash.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a different world. Does this standings stack sizes leaderboard mean that this was the good night for you?
Yeah, I crushed. I think I was in for 100.
In for 100, out for 387. Oscar was in for 500, so it looks like he has a lot of chips, but he definitely lost a fair bit. Matt Berkey, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. It was a pleasure to have you on as well. We should do this at least once a year, maybe more often, but I always ask you and you're always busy. This is the busiest man in poker, ladies and gentlemen, the busiest man in poker. I'm not even kidding. I have the receipts.
We have missed each other a lot.
Exactly. But it makes it that much sweeter when we can finally make it happen again. For the people in the chat that are still with us, on your way out, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Check out Matt Berkey on Twitter. If you just search Berkey, he'll come up if you follow any poker people. And then also Solve for Why on YouTube, and of course, tv.solveforwhy.io. Lots of cool content coming out. I would highly recommend checking out Poker Out Loud. Very interesting, very entertaining, and I'm pretty sure there's much more good stuff to come from the team over at Solve for Why. I'll be back next week, Thursday night, 5 p.m. Pacific. Guest unknown, but I promise you there will be a guest in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to have many, many big guests on the show. We're going to do lots of previewing of the high-stakes duel between Daniel Negreanu and Mr. Phil Hellmuth. Check out the No Gamble, No Future YouTube channel. We have a lot of exclusive content on there, which also includes the most epic rant of all time. Both Phil Hellmuth and Daniel Negreanu going absolutely off the rails in a shouting match that aired last Tuesday. I can't even explain it. You have to watch it. It's absolutely insane. That is happening on March 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern on PokerGO exclusively. The match between Phil and Daniel that we've all been waiting for. I think Daniel's going to win, but I also think Phil is not going to lose because that's just not going to happen. He's Phil Hellmuth. He's the greatest of all time. So what can you do? You guys, thank you so much for watching. Matt Berkey, thank you so much for being with us, and we'll catch you guys next week.